Hi, and welcome to another episode of Cybeers. Today, I'm joined by Craig Munn, Incident Response Manager. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you.
And almost as always, Richard Granger, Global Head of Digital Forensics. Welcome, mate.
Thank you for having me again.
Today, we've got some interesting beers. You guys chose this one for me, and I was actually quite excited when I saw this come out the bag. I've got the Helles Good Helles Lager coming from Ocean Reach Brewing down in Cowes at Phillip Island. This, unknowingly to you guys, is one of my favourite beers. Love going down to Phillip Island. Love going down to some of the breweries down there. So thank you very much, guys. I'm not even going to need to review this one.
We guessed right then, so
Yeah,
well done.
You've done well.
I'm like, that's got a cool artwork on it. So.
Absolutely, it's all about the artwork. Some penguins on there. So I'm gonna crack this one open. Rich, you've actually gotten onto a beer today.
A type of beer.
You're normally on the gins. Today you've got a beer.
This time I've decided to go with a ginger beer. So this is the Moondog ginger beer. What kind of drew me to this one is it's low sugar. Because I do like ginger beer, but it's often really, really sweet.
Well, the gin and tonic normally goes with a sugar-free tonic, doesn't it?
So keen to give this a crack and see how it is.
Yeah, I know Craig got me a ginger beer the other day. We enjoyed one because I've just gotten back from a couple of years of travel. It's great to be here locally, and you got me one the other day, so you might have got me onto the ginger beer.
I'm calling it earlier. It's drink of the summer.
Really? Yeah. Really? Of the summer? Well, it's coming up.
Big call.
It's going to be nice and warm next week, so we'll find out. Especially we've got Cup Day Tuesday, we've got Oaks Day on Thursday. It's a short week next week. But what have you got today?
Yeah, I've got one from Blackman's. So
where's Blackman's?
It's down on the Bellarine, so you can pick the east. I'll take the west.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is a barrel farm beer, so they actually age it in wine barrels, so like Pinot barrels and Chardonnay barrels. So it's a barrel-aged golden sour.
Wonderful. You might have found me one there as well. Well,
there you
go. Guys, cheers. I've already gotten in early and cracked mine, but we'll give them a taste and see how they go. Look, that tastes like summer to me. It's not quite a pale ale sitting on the front deck on a 34-degree day, but that tastes like a nice picnic. Takes me back to COVID days, which is when I got into Helles lagers.
Yeah.
Rich, how's your low-sugar ginger beer?
It's good. Gingery, not sweet. So, yeah.
Actually tastes like ginger beer that tastes like ginger. That's a bit rare.
Yeah. It's not
wonderful. And how's your barrel-aged golden sour?
Yeah, it's good. Like, you can't see it through the can, but it's like cloudy, so
nice.
Sort of sits in the mouth pretty well.
Yeah.
Not too hoppy, but not too sweet / sour. So
I know
nice
Brad's into his sour beers actually, so yeah, you're gonna have to let him know you might have found a good one for him. So,
Book him up.
well, guys, cheers.
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 You might notice we're in this nice big new studio today. So we've gone even a level above, but you might have noticed the studio, but you've probably also noticed a couple of us that are normally sporting some pretty big beards.
Some baby faces here today.
Yeah, I feel like I'm 12. My beard was my shield for a long time. It was my personality, right?
Yeah.
I put a lot into that. I grew mine initially during COVID. Then one of the people that decided to actually maintain it and keep it. And I hate you for this. I really do. We got together a few months ago when I was back, and I said, right, if you do Movember again, you did it last year, and we raised a bit over 10 grand, which was awesome. But I said, right, if you do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I think your reaction was done.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So we're both going beardless. We're raising funds for men's health. It's a wonderful thing we're doing. Craig, you're partaking, but your before and after photos are almost the same. You didn't have a beard beforehand.
You guys have got the upfront shock of surprising everyone the beard's gone. I've got the joy in about 3 weeks when people realise I'm doing Movember.
I want to know what style. What style are you going to go, Craig? Are you going to go? You don't really grow the sides here, so we reckon you might have to go a bit of a speed bump. The moustache down into the.
Look, beggars can't be choosers. So I'll just take whatever I can get. To be honest.
Look, and Rich, have you settled on a design yet?
So it's TBD. We're actually doing a bit of a vote on it.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, so last Friday we're in the office and sort of like, what are you going to grow? I'm like, I don't know. And then someone's like, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And it's like, all right, well, Belinda had the great idea that put a vote on it. Everyone, chips in $2 donation
$2 per vote.
for a vote. And then we'll see what comes out, and it looks as though it'll be the handlebars slash chopper.
The chopper.
Yeah.
At this stage, which I did grow a few Movembers ago, and I got told to look like a criminal. So,
you instant responder gets on the
like,
call
yeah,
that
right,
you're a
I'll
criminal.
do it again. But, yeah.
I'd already said I was going the chopper /
Yeah.
the hog / the handlebars. So
A good choice.
well, I did threaten to Sal that I'm going to grow it all the way down my neck, but she said she'll disown me from taking me out to any clients. And considering I've just gotten back, I think that's where I'm going to be spending a lot of my time. So
Yeah, fair enough.
look, I want to make a couple of important shout outs. So the donations page is open. So please, if you want to see Rich grow anything different, jump in. $2. Whatever gets the most votes, he's going to grow. We might leave it and say, till Friday of next week? I think you're wanting to do it on the weekend.
I mean, I can do the chopper, and if it changes, then I can just get rid of the sides. So.
I love it. So if you want to see Rich grow anything different other than the chopper, jump into our Movember page. All it takes is $2. Put in a vote, put it in the comments, and he'll grow that. But outside of that, we wanted to provide a couple of special shout outs. The first to one of our key partners, and that's Emergence Insurance. Troy and the team there, absolutely wonderful crew to work with them. We work with them very closely, but they chipped in fairly considerable donations for us to really kick us off. Yep. So thank you to Troy and the Emergence team. I know Troy put it out to everyone in the office. Everyone got behind it, but they've really, really supported this. So big shout out to the Emergence crew. Thank you to Troy and the team. And I'm going to make a personal shout out to my barber at King's Domain at the Rialto. So when he heard I was doing Movember, didn't charge me for doing the beard. So I mean, it was pretty quick compared to what he normally does. He normally does a good trim for me, but King's Domain at Rialto as well. Very much appreciate you and your support for our Movember causes. So if you want to jump in, we'll make sure that our Movember link is absolutely in the YouTube comments, and we'll get it across LinkedIn and everything. Lana and Belinda have some very fantastic ideas for us. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, very much so. Worthwhile cause. Can't believe you made me do it. I think you've already talked me into next year as well.
Well, it's on record now, so.
Jess, my wife, I am sorry. But we've got 12 of the team doing it, so it's not just us three. Big crew. Everyone's got photos up on our Movember page. The biggest one I'd like to call out is Yanis.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know
Travis.
Yanis, big Viking beard,
Yeah.
all the way out and around, and he was told he's not allowed to pick up his son any longer from
Looks
daycare.
completely different.
the daycare people almost didn't want to give the son over because they didn't realise it was actually Yanis when he rocked up. So big call out to everyone that's partaking. Today we're talking about incident response war games and tabletop exercises, which is why we've gathered two of the key members of the incident response team and myself here, obviously. Incident response war games and tabletop exercises. Craig, what are we talking about? What are they?
Look, when we're talking DFIR,
or digital forensics and incident
digital
response.
forensics and incident response.
I found out this isn't actually a common term. So DFIR, I said DFIR to a few people in LA at the conference I was at. They didn't know what I was talking about. Yeah, it's not a.
Do they say DFIR?
They say digital forensics and incident response.
It's a mouthful.
Because it's absolutely, but they'll either say one or the other. It's very uncommon in the US and the UK to actually have people that do digital forensics and incident response. There's only a handful of people in Australia that can do both, which is why we've got Craig, incident response, yourself as the digital forensics lead. But all three of us can do DF and IR, which is actually pretty uncommon. So yes, when we're talking DFIR.
When we're talking DFIR, not everyone really wants to go through the pain of being attacked by a threat actor.
You don't want to become best friends with us twice a day for 6 to 8 weeks?
Look, let's put aside the perks for a moment. But what it is companies recognising that they don't want to go through that pain. And a lot of companies will invest in technical controls, so prevention or detection to try and pick up against these attacks. But things go wrong.
Yeah.
And when they do go wrong, companies are developing and practicing plans that they follow to respond to these sorts of attacks.
Look, an incident response plans, we've been talking about them for years. ISO 27001 requires it, PCI DSS requires it, NIST talks about it, and for years the advisory team have written incident response plans, but they've never been great and they've never really been tested.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Most of the time, these documents are developed.
Shelfware.
They're developed with best of intentions, and then you blow the dust off every year to sign that. Yeah, I've reviewed it. It's all up to date, and then it goes back on the shelf. And the cybersecurity landscape changes every month, every 6 months. It completely
every
changes.
morning sometimes, right?
We're waking up and
this
finding
morning
new
changed.
threats all the time. And the plans need to be more dynamic to keep up with the landscape.
Yeah.
So one of the best ways to do that is by pouring the acid over it and actually testing what happens if something goes wrong, how do we respond, what does our plan say that we do, and how effective is it?
Yeah.
So that's really what we're talking about when we're talking war games.
And Rich, when you're called and you get a ransomware attack and someone calls and says, I've been hit, it doesn't matter who it's by, how important is that incident response plan and them knowing they've got something to follow?
I think for like the first couple of stages, it is very important.
Yeah.
And I think, which should be very early on in it, if not the first thing, is basically contact trusted partners. Cyber insurer is like...
Call your cyber insurer.
We've talked about this at length about
many times.
What that can offer you, but it's very important that you sort of go through those processes and then get that kicked off, and then basically that makes life a lot easier going forward because you'll get people involved who are able to assist you through the rest of and guide you through the rest of the response. So you might not necessarily have to go through and do all of these remediation and containment activities yourself because you can get people in to do that for you.
Yeah. And companies are doing this stuff already in different areas of response. So every 6 months, buildings are doing evacuation plans.
Yeah.
Because we need to test how to get people out during an emergency. In your home life, and this is something that I need to work through now that I've got a small son at home, is like, what do you do if there's a fire in the house? What's your plan? Where do you go? And that's really tangible stuff because you can see it and you can do it.
You can touch it, you can feel it.
It's easy to test and it's easy to get right. Cyber, you can't see it. Oftentimes you don't know about it. And the controls and the investigation steps that you take are beyond a lot of skill sets of business as usual work. So it's crucial to test.
Yeah, look, and it's interesting. I was talking to a few people the last couple of days, and I said, oh, yeah, I've been doing this for 19 years. And then I went, wow, actually, next week is 20 years that I've been in this industry. And I've never really seen as many instant response tabletop exercises and war games as we're seeing at the moment. We used to do 4, 5 per year, if that, and that was run by the advisory team. And a lot of the time we saw, okay, cybersecurity advisors would be doing these war games, and they'd be talking through with clients and what would you do, how would you respond, etc. But they're not taking the real world information into consideration.
Yeah.
And that's why we make sure that you're involved and our technical team is involved. So we're providing real world, up to the minute information and exercises from stuff we saw that morning, not just theoretical of, oh, imagine this happened and what would you do? How would you respond?
Yeah.
It's important to take that real world stuff into consideration.
The one thing that comes out in a lot of these real world incident responses is stuff happens that was previously thought impossible. So you design your environment in such a way that things cannot happen. And lo and behold, there's a new critical vulnerability comes out, or there's been a mistake made within the configuration that allows something to happen that you did not expect. And what we're seeing in real world response is that there's pretty strong themes of those vulnerabilities that are playing out month to month. So there's new tactics that we're observing this month that have been happening for the last couple of months that we haven't seen
Sometimes
before.
a year, 18 months even.
Exactly. And that's what we're actually now starting to bring in with customers testing this stuff is what's happening right now. What do we see in the last month that we can use to inform and prepare and simulate a real world attack?
And then we're relying on our security research team as well, right? So I remember when we got the first Citrix NetScaler breach, it was within about, 7 hours of Citrix going and releasing the notification. Gave the boxes across to the security research team. They pulled it apart. You worked with them to build some detections and some information about this, then handed it across to Craig, or Craig was involved in that response. And then you're able to bake that into those scenarios. Say, right, what would you do if the patch was released yesterday and you were hit today? And it's testing the ability to move quickly, not just, a thing has happened, what would you do?
And it's not just important, like we're harping on around the technical, right? What's going on in the world technically to cause these attacks, but how the business responds and pivots to this sort of attack through their executive team. How do they move away from BAU to operating in crisis mode or part of their incident response team? There's generally some pretty clear steps that they need to follow every single time that are really easy to test.
Well, that's so true, Rich. Like, during digital forensics, how often are you telling clients that, sorry, you have to turn off your inbound and outbound internet connectivity?
One of the first things that you do when you get into, depending on the type of engagement it is and the attack, is, it's like, we need to disconnect your internet now. We're going to have some very strict firewall rules in place for, it might be a couple of days. Basically, while we get the tools out, we start finding out what's happened, what's still in the environment before, and it'll be, it could be weeks before you're operating like you were.
Well, the average ransomware investigation takes, they're running in impacted mode for 6-8 weeks.
It can be, 100%, depending on, what the backups and restoration looks like.
Backups.
Exactly. it can be weeks before they're back to normal.
And the one thing that we catch people out with all the time is businesses might have really strong business continuity plans or really strong disaster recovery plans. And that's where they've invested all their effort. Is how to recover to a disaster. This is the plan that we follow.
But they've got strong business continuity plans, sure, but their business continuity plan normally says, I'll pack up and go and work from home. But I've sat in a lot of these investigations where you've said, okay, well, we're turning the internet off, like inbound,
outbound,
outbound,
for a while.
and they freak out, and they look and go, how are we meant to operate?
Well, the whole premise of those documents is they're there to restore to the as was. What was there is what got compromised in the first place. So if you take a plan and then go to your DR site and just stand back up a literal replica of what just got compromised, you're still vulnerable and you're going to cop it again. And that's where the incident response plan testing and the actual war game of, well, you can't just follow your DR plan because you're going to get compromised again and you're still vulnerable, and we need to do additional containment measures, is what's catching a lot of people out.
It's not sort of as simple as just restoring from backup, because, we've seen a lot of very quick smash and grab ransomwares, but we've also seen ones where they're in the environment for months before, they actually start to exfiltrate data and deploy ransomware. So you don't want to just be restoring that unless it's been checked by someone who's knows what they're doing and knows what to look for persistence and things like that, because you can just end up in the same situation again.
What do you reckon the split is at the moment between smash and grab and long dwell time?
It's probably 50-50. Like, we've had a couple where it's sort of about 20 days we're seeing is sort of dwell time, and then others where they're in and out within a day or two.
So it is important to get the team in to verify which one was it. Was 100%. It a smash and grab where you can go and restore from Thursday's backup? Or is it one where, no, we're actually going to be in here for a while checking for persistence and lateral movement. Can you come back? I was at the Net Diligence conference in Beverly Hills, of all places. Feels like a lifetime ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It's moving to San Diego next year, which is going to be interesting. Moved from Santa Monica to Beverly Hills, and now it's going down to San Diego. But there was a presentation around a threat actor who is now going back and doing re-compromise. So even if you pay now,
double dipping.
They are.
Yeah.
They're trying to make the money back from all the time they lost when they were supporting the Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's my theory. That's not documented anywhere. But they're going back, even if they're paid. They're leaving persistence mechanisms in, and they're just going and hitting them again.
Well, I mean, we see that pretty much in every ransomware. There is some level of persistence. So if an organisation just decides, all right, we'll pay, decrypt, and we're good to go.
Good to go.
If they're coming back in and using those persistent mechanisms to re-compromise environments, it shows how important it is to get someone in to investigate this stuff.
You make it sound so easy, Rich.
Yeah, it really does.
Just pay.
Just
and
pay.
Decrypt.
Just pay
Yeah.
and decrypt.
Like we're done in a day.
Yeah.
But it's not really how it works, Nick, right? Like,
Well, should that form part of your incident response plan then?
or should 100% be part of your incident response plan. You need to thrash this out with your executive team. They need to understand how long it takes.
Yeah.
The board needs to be across it as well. They need to have awareness of how do ransoms work.
So you want the board involved in an incident response tabletop and wargame exercise?
They absolutely need to have exposure.
Okay.
Like there is definitely growing interest among boards that we've worked with around cybersecurity, and not just the standard stuff.
And why is this though, right? As I said, I've been doing this for 20 years, and we've stood on rooftops. We've shouted, we've screamed, we've gone to conferences, right? There's a lot of us who are a bit jaded, right? The people that have been doing this for a long time, there's a reason there's a lot of burnout in this industry, and now boards are finally starting to realise and to understand this stuff's important. Why?
Because over 90% of the war games that we run, somebody is mentioning Medibank. Somebody is mentioning Optus. Somebody is mentioning Latitude.
Yeah.
No one wants to be the next
Front page
one.
of itnews.com.au.
100%. So now there's disincentive.
Okay. So it's not right. So we had legislation. We had the Privacy Act that was changed. We're doing all this stuff from government. There's I keep on getting the number wrong. 7 Shields, I think it is, from Home Affairs that is coming. You're telling me all the stuff we've done in government, all the legislation, all of that's not the reason. It's these big companies that have been breached.
Well, it's both, but it's what's
big
happened in the
factor.
past 18 months.
It's a big factor, yeah.
Everybody talks about those breaches. Not many people are talking about the legislation that's coming.
No.
Not many people talk about the changes that have happened. And that's really what we see real life running these war games, is what the incentives are.
Look, that disheartens me. It disenfranchises me as a cybersecurity professional, that we've been telling companies for years. It's not if, it's when. And we always find, right, that organisations find money after a breach. They always find the way to do it. There's never money. Well, not never. There is now. There's challenges. There's budgetary challenges before a breach. Now, you're telling me that now there's been big breaches. Companies are paying attention to this. I knew that was the answer, but I just didn't want to believe it, that you're hearing that at the board level. Anyway, that's my disappointment. So who should you want boards included in the war game? Who else? What kind of level are we running this? Are we talking down to the janitor? Are we talking just tech? What are we talking about?
So there's definite elements to test all levels of the organisation. Sometimes you can test processes that support the organisation. We don't need the end user, for example, in to test a war game.
Okay.
You've got processes in there. You've got education pieces that you run. We can validate that they exist or how they work, but it's around response, right? So who's responding? And you've got a technical level of response. You've got an executive level of response.
Normally your crisis management
Usually
team.
your crisis management team or an incident management team is one or the other. And then you've got board in a level of response, depending on the type of incident, but they're going to be involved and have their fingers in it. And you can bet if you get attacked, they're going to want to know about it.
Oh,
so you need...
yeah. But then, right, I've heard a lot of companies saying we provide instant response tabletop exercises and war games, and we ask the board if they pay the ransom. Well, we go a step further, don't we? And say, yeah, okay, would you pay the ransom? But the $1 million, $5 million, $10 million question we ask is, all right, you'll pay the threat actor. They're on a sanctions list. They're a Russian-based threat actor group, and they're on a sanctions list. Can you pay them?
Yeah.
Like,
not legally.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it a very difficult decision then, because a lot of the ransomware negotiation firms that we work with and are used by everyone around the world. Basically, if it's on the sanctions list, they're not breaking the law for you. So you're going to have to sort of go a bit rogue to try and find a way to pay this ransom.
And it might be $1 million. And you've got to pay it up front, not knowing if it's covered by insurance.
And that's a 6 to 9 month claim process.
Especially,
right?
if it's on the sanction list, the insurers aren't going to cover it either.
So again, this has to go into your incident response plan. You have to test this. What happens if the worst comes to fruition? And I ask, one of my favorite interview questions, I'm going to give it away here. I ask everyone this that I'm interviewing, would you pay the ransom? And 99% of people come back and say, no, it's against my morals, it's against my ethics, we're going to be funding criminal activities, 100% we agree. But then I go a step further and say, okay, that's great, all of your systems are encrypted and your backups have been deleted. Now what would you do? And that has to come into consideration during the incident response plan, right?
100%.
Absolutely. Like, there comes a point in time where you're looking at risk to the business. Do you have the ability to continue to operate?
And then if you've got full business interruption, then there's a few different considerations that are made, like how we were just saying about paying the ransom. If you've got 100% business interruption, your cyber insurer is going to look at it a bit differently, aren't they?
And it's kind of, do you just pack up shop then? Like, that's kind of the situation you're in that position is either we pay the ransom and we're able to decrypt our systems, or we don't pay the ransom and we start fresh, which, a lot of organizations aren't going to be able to just...
Your general ledger's gone.
We'll just spin up a new SharePoint and we're good to go. It's like, it doesn't work like that.
No.
And like, a lot of organizations, it may not be about interruption, but you might have data loss. Like, threat actors are getting in. One of the first things they do is they try and find backups and delete them or impact them. So you've lost your backups.
We've talked about backups to no end. Don't put them on a NAS. I think we say that every Cybeers until people realise don't put your backups onto a local connected NAS. I'm just going to say it during every Cybeers.
But like, what's the impact to your business if you've lost a week of data? Literally, like, do you need to consider paying a ransom because of the implications that has to your business?
And that goes in the incident response plan and the tabletop.
It's something we're testing it in the tabletops, definitely.
Okay,
like,
so we're going down to that level where we're asking these tough questions around what would you do, how would you respond?
Yeah, like a lot of like, it's maximum like acceptable outage, or what we're working through. Again, same sort of stuff in the BCP. What can you actually sustain data loss was? And then I'm just going to blow that out of the water tenfold. And what do you do? And they're real. This real world. We see it happen. We've seen it happen multiple times this year. People need to maybe pack up shop if they can't pay.
And I guess that's the difference around what we're doing versus what maybe an IT provider or... Look, I've ranted about this far too many times around these MSPs and the less experienced providers that are now spinning up and providing cybersecurity services, right? This is why you work with a dedicated cybersecurity provider who does this, who's responding. How many incidents have we responded to now this year? I think it's 61 now.
No, it's like 70 something.
Oh, now it's 70 plus. I looked at the stats last time, a couple of weeks ago. It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But we've responded to 70 plus incidents, and it's only the start of November. And we're not even to the busy time of the year yet. So it's baking this real world information in as we go. So in saying that, how many of these incident response war games and tabletop exercises do you think we've done now? We said we used to do about 4 or 5 per year. Any idea? What are we up to? I see your calendar's always full. Tabletop war game. I'm like, can Craig help? Well, yes, but remember,
Well, it's helping and helping, proactive and reactive, right? So we're well into double digits, right? And we're already, working through and scheduling in work for February and March next year. 'Cause
Really?
this is how desperate people are trying to actually schedule these in and do this test.
Look, and the new one that we're starting to talk about is I won't go to it in too much depth, is chaos monkey testing, where you're actually baking in now the red teaming and the purple teamed approach that stick a pen tester or a red teamer in the network, they can go, create chaos. Actually, have it real world.
I love to do it. Companies don't like it when we do it.
They don't like us intentionally breaching their network and then watching their executive freak out thinking it's real. But we're going to see more and more of this happening because it's all well and good to talk about it. Now, prove to me this could actually happen. And that's another thing that we do, isn't it? We build a scenario around understanding what you've got, what controls are in place, and what's actually likely for you.
Yeah.
So it's not just a made-up scenario. We want to understand what endpoint solution software you're running. Do you have a SIEM? Do you have people monitoring this?
Internet-facing devices.
Yeah.
What have you got sitting in there? What's your vulnerability scanning like? What's your access control like? Your segregation within your network? Like, where's the juicy underbelly the IT team are worried about?
The
It's
elephant
an
in
exchange server, isn't it?
It's always the exchange server.
The unpatched exchange server.
Stop it. I thought that was done. We haven't done a proxy shell. I was looking at it for about 8 months. And then you told me the one that we
Was
started
only one
earlier in the
that's-
week.
Yeah,
It was more than likely a proxy shell. That's 3 years old, Rich.
I know.
Patch or get rid of exchange. Put it up to
People
M365.
kind of forget that it's there, and that's kind of what we found in a lot of these proxy shells is there's like one legacy thing that it does, and
So this is a great way to find
Exactly,
that vulnerable
yeah.
thing. We're sitting with your IT team, and it's like, what's the elephant in the room
Yeah.
that the executives don't want us to test? And
Or your
that's-
exec doesn't know about.
that's what we're going to test.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to bring to light. That's what's going to get presented up to the board. All the
That's what the
recommendations
threat
are
actor is
going to be in
going
there.
after.
Because that's what's vulnerable and that's what people are going after.
100% there. Rich, we say it all the time. We're saying there, if they want to go after you, they'll find the way. And they'll go after you and they'll find you if they want to. Most of the time, they're going for the slowest runner in the race. They're going for the vulnerability they can find. They can go and compromise. The net scalers that haven't been patched, they can dump some shells on there and come back later.
100%.
It's don't be the slowest runner in the
Yeah,
race.
just don't be an easy target.
Yeah. All right, gents. Any final words of advice, Craig, that you've got that to sum up instant response war games and tabletop exercises?
I think don't be worried about not being mature enough. Like, it's always you worry about it finding gaps. That's the whole point, is we're there to find gaps and help.
We're
build.
not an auditor.
We're happy, like, we can facilitate your team responding. We can actually test them and sit back and just observe. We can work with you to help. It's all around helping your organisation practice and mature your response. You got to start somewhere, right?
You
So
got to start somewhere. I like
yeah.
it. Rich, final words of advice on
Probably-
tabletops.
Digital forensics person inside of me is when you're sort of building out instant response plan, which might be part of these tabletops, is make sure that if you've got cyber insurance in there, it's one of the first people you call. We're currently working through an incident now where we were engaged quite late, which has issues for us in terms of evidence and being able to collect it to get a full picture of how do they get in, what do they do, what data do they touch, and answer those questions for the client. Just because they thought that it was being handled by their IT guy. It's not as serious as it was. So yeah, basically put it in the instant response plan. Reach out to them. Just let them know what's going on, and they're people that you can talk to who will be able to say, yeah, that's actually really bad, and we need to investigate further.
Look, and mine is just do it. It comes back to what Craig said. This is not, at the end of the day, an expensive exercise to run through. I know there's some that are starting to make it an expensive exercise, but it shouldn't be. This should be something that you just factor into your budget, that goes in, and it's just part of the annual cycle. And it is an annual thing. but just do it. It's far too important, and we've always said not if but when, and we're now talking about resilience and robustness. But what you said at the start, Rich, you never want to be in this situation and sitting there going, what do I do? And this just fills in part of that preparedness and almost sits beside your insurance policy.
Yep.
Gentlemen, it's been fun. But thank you very much. We'll wrap it there. We could talk about this all day, every day. As always, these topics are fun and interesting. But if you want more information about tabletop exercises and war games, do reach out. We hope you've enjoyed this. We hope you've learned something, and cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.